I'm not gonna say past life regression therapy can be perilous. But way back in the 1980s, when the crust of the earth was still cooling, you couldn't watch daytime TV without seeing a therapist trotting out a mother and a daughter, or two daughters, to point the finger at a parent, accusing them of horrible things, telling them that their memories were true because they knew it. Flash forward to the 90s, and that was debunked. They had a fancy name for it. It's a polysyllabic word that you can use during Scrabble, and that word is confabulation. Call the doctor, he's developed a confabulation. It sounds treacherous, doesn't it? All confabulation means is that we've blended recollection with imagination. Now, that's not wicked, nor is it feeble-minded. One of the reasons we thrived on this planet is not because we are swift of foot, long of claw, or sharp of fang, but because we are clever little primates. And we are wired to fill in the gaps, sometimes with brilliance, other times with bullshit. It's what we are wired to do. In fact, there are parts of the brain that cannot tell the difference between an emotion and a recollection. So, in light of that, I think we can agree that there is a certain amount of peril in getting knee deep and elbow deep in looking for the solutions to this moment's problems in the immediate past of this life or the deep past of previous lives. There's something I say probably far too much. Sturgeon's law reminds us that 90% of everything is crap, including meditation teachers, including Dharma teachings. Think back to high school. Remember the kids running for student body president? Typically, these were not the brightest or the sharpest. These were the popular kids. Some people, like moths drawn to a porchlight, are drawn to positions of perceived power or petty prestige. We can find that in every facet of human society, vocationally, recreationally, religiously, secularly. There are always people looking to be authority figures. And we don't need to go very far. Consider, if you will, the dreadful book by Thich Nhat Hanh, Old Path, White Clouds. Why do I refer to it? Because it's an excellent study and dichotomy between the legend of the Buddha and his cousin. His cousin was all about yang. He was all about being rigid, fearful, controlling, elitist, cryptic, competitive, and cruel. And the Buddha was portrayed as being all about yin, all about being flexible, loving, laid back, egalitarian, lucid, cooperative, and kind. Let's look at elitism versus egalitarianism. Elitism says, dude, man, enlightenment is only for special people, man. Unless you can, recall all your past lives and go into deep trance and, do naked cartwheels while blowing fireballs out of your tuchus. You can't do it, man. You can't do it. That's a lot of malarkey. The Buddha was about egalitarianism. He said you can do it in 7 years. You could do it in 7 quarters, 7 months, 7 fortnights, 7 weeks, even 7 days. And he even gave you a step-by-step manual that I explored last night called the Anapanasati Sutta and said, oh, look, This is how we did it. Which, of course, reminds me of the wonderful Mel Brooks film, Young Frankenstein, in which a young Dr. Frankenstein discovers his grandfather's or great grandfather's book titled How I Did It. So, despite those who wish to profit from crushing our spirits beneath the heel of their boot, we don't need parlor tricks. If you grow weary of looking at dusty old Buddha, consider the great reformers of his path who came about 11 centuries after his death. Whether you're looking at Yung Jieshuan Jue of China or Prahe Vajra of the Swat Valley of present day Afghanistan, they taught pretty much the same thing. As we sit in meditation with impeccable posture and thunderous BO, things are going to come up. Those things could be direct perceptions of the present moment, sights, sounds, sensations, flavors, scents, and the like. They could be perceptions of our interior experience, emotions, intentions, thoughts, memories, imaginings. Now, here is $1 million worth of free advice. When things come up, we don't have to figure out whether they are real or imagined or a blend of both. All we need to describe the present moment is the demonstrative pronoun this. If we want to get fancy, we can call a memory then, we can call a fantasy dream, we can call an emotion feel. If you want, that's fine. Knock yourself out. But the basic point is this. Once we notice something, we don't need to analyze it. We don't need to compare and contrast and create a book report about it. There is a universal response to everything, and that is to physically relax and mentally release, sometimes in the face of the bliss straight out of a Maxfield Parrish painting, and other times out of a nightmare so grotesque it could drive Satan to tears and make him curl up tight with his teddy bear. So, regardless of what happens, glorious or grotesque, our response is the same. Notice and process viscerally by relaxing. That's it. Notice, relax, notice, relax, notice, relax. Prahe Vajra cautions in the final verse of his source text on Dzogchen that it's so easy, it can be difficult. And the inference is for those of us who are controlling. Allow me to say something that is wildly unpopular amongst the cranky and fair-mongering elitists. Dzogchen is easy. Mahamudra is easy. Sati Pasadi is easy. The Buddha is right. You can master it in record time. I'm here to help with that. Before we start the formal meditation explanation, let's pause for 40 seconds of housekeeping. This is the Lama Jigme Gyatso of the Buddha Joy Meditation School. For more than 8 hours a day, over the span of more than 30 years, I studied, practiced, and reverse engineered all the teachings and techniques of every school of Buddhism so that you will not have to. I get to play the Yoda to your young Luke Skywalker so that you can easily and quickly become the person that your dog already thinks you are. Welcome to Meditate Like a Jedi, which is made possible due to the generosity of viewers just like you. Now, speaking of those viewers, a good-hearted person wrote some compelling questions about mushrooms and manifesting and yang energy. And those questions are so good and so compelling that I'm intending to devote this evening's lesson to that very subject. Spoiler alert, the person asking the question is neither a fool nor a villain, and they're very close to the optimal path. So they're doing good. I'm sending them a psychic hug, and I look forward to addressing their very good questions in about, 12-ish hours or so. Now, let's, as they said in Celebrity Deathmatch, let's get it on. Or as they said in Steel Magnolias, now it's time for the Easter Bunny. Is that the right button? I think it is. Okay. Just as a sprinter is wired to have a visceral response to the sound of the starter's pistol or the sight of the finish line. Thank you, Mr. James. Likewise, all of us like a bit of the old structure. So I like to begin and end meditation with a bit of the old chanting. This chanting is not a prayer to real or imagined entities. It is simply words we play with to exercise the neural pathways responsible for enthusiasm and empathy. We'll begin with a literal recitation set to the triplet chant. May I liberate all beings from the tyranny of hating, craving, and clinging by relying on thee. Buddha's example, instructions, and students. These three highlighted terms are so useful that they've earned the nickname, the metaphoric nickname, 3 wish-fulfilling jewels, which are inferred in the final pre-meditation chant. This recitation is more concise and more figurative. We are setting this recitation to the bookend chant. Come on. May I liberate all beings by relying on the 3 jewels. May I liberate all beings by relying on the 3 jewels. May I liberate all beings by relying on the 3 jewels. So, without boring you to tears, I would like to review the instructions for mindfulness and meditation. They're known by many names. You know what? This is an editing opportunity. Please bear with me. Let's see here. Let's go to 15:15. And that might make the screen go berserk. So let's see if we can't fix that. Okay. Oh, stop that. Okay, let's hit 15. No, I don't want to do that. Let's go over here. Hit. Sa-ti. Pa-sa-di. Okay, let's hit this and make sure once again the screen is copacetic. Excellent. Okay, mindfulness and meditation are known by many names, including Sati, Pasadi, Zen, Proto-Zen, Shandyana, Mahamudra, Mahasandhi, Ati Yoga, Dzogchen, and even Trekcho. And despite the exotic nature of this nomenclature, it's really, really easy. Let's begin with mindfulness. Every time we breathe in, whether we know it or not, we access our sympathetic nervous system. It's so primal, it's not even in our skull, it's in our spinal cord in the thoracic region. It's wired not for active concentration, but for us to merely perceive, and to do so vulnerably, passively, viscerally, and you guessed it, randomly. Every control freak's worst nightmare. This is illustrated by the 12 syllables of inhalation, perceiving this very turbulent play of mind. Most of us don't want to perceive that. They want to ignore that. They want to they want to be like Tommy, you know. Put on your eye shades, put on your earplugs, you know where to put the cork. So, if you like the Who. However, we are wired for a mind to be playful like a monkey. Hopefully he doesn't throw poo. What are some of the antics of mine? As mentioned during class this morning, we are wired to see, hear, feel, taste, smell, and the like. My friends on, what's that called? SciShow get really upset if I don't say and the like. So they get very, very persnickety. So, but I'm less of a scholar and more of a yogi, and we like prime numbers, don't we? Mine can also emote, intend, reason, recall, and imagine. So what do we do with all this stuff? Well, that brings us to meditation, because every time we inhale, whether we know it or not, we are accessing our parasympathetic nervous system ensconced within the lumbar region of our spinal cord, as well as the tippy top of the cervical region. What during each exhalation is our parasympathetic nervous system wired to do? To physically relax and to mentally release, as is illustrated in exhalation's recitation, relaxing into mind's non-graspable nature. And yes, there are people who are rigid and controlling, and they explore this literally, and they try to force themselves to superstitiously believe the mind is literally non-graspable, or pseudo-intellectually strive to prove the mind is literally non-graspable. But most of us are graduates of elementary school, and in the 4th grade, they should have taught us, if we weren't too busy getting in trouble, they should have taught us that not all statements are literal. Many are figurative. Similes and metaphors and hyperboles and the like. Lions and tigers and bears. Oh my! And so, as we relax into our exhalation, whatever we perceive during our previous inhalation can begin to feel as if it was as non-graspable as a vast empty void, such as the illusion of the infinite azure sky on a bright and beautiful cloudless morn, which, although is tantalizing to the eye, resists our efforts to reach for it and pull back a handful of blue. I know, I've tried, it didn't work. And this is the basis of Buddhism's greatest hits, Buddhism's most popular metaphors, such as birthlessness, selflessness, deathlessness, emptiness, and the like. So yes, if you're an elitist, you're going to hate me. But if you're an everyday slob, just like this guy here, you might enjoy the demystification of Buddhism. Dun, dun, dun. So, now, together, as a team, let's meditate as transformatively as Rey on Octo under the guidance of the curmudgeonly Luke Skywalker. Just as our parents tied 2 training wheels to our bicycle when we were tiny tots, we're going to start with what I call the contemplative training wheels of the 12-syllable meditation. Let's dig in. Now let us remove the first of two training wheels and switch gears from the 12-syllable exercise to its 3-syllable counterpart. As we inhale, we can silently and mentally recite "Notice this." As we exhale, we can silently and mentally recite "Relaxing." We do not have to, but if we wish, we can play with labels. If we're feeling a strong sensation, be it pleasurable or painful, we could play with the label, you guessed it, sensation. If we feel an emotion, whether pleasurable or painful, we can simply practice non-duality and merely call it emotion. If our mind wanders to the past, real or imagined, we can use the phrase recollect. If we find ourselves talking to ourselves or an imagined individual, we could play with the label cognition. And now, as like the daredevils we are, like the little evil Knievels we may fancy ourselves to be, let us remove the final, the final training wheel and graduate from the 3-syllable exercise to its 1-syllable counterpart. Insert dramatic music. Dun dun dun. That was my dramatic music. Now, the price we pay for monosyllabic labels is a little bit of poetic license. So physical sensations we refer to as form, emotional sensations we could refer to as feel. Recollections we could refer to as then, and imaginings we could refer to as dreams. Now, our job is not to stress ourselves out perfectionistically finding and selecting the perfect label. Life is messy. Think back to your best sex of your life. When you were done, you were messy as hell. And you were probably fine. You and your pal patted down to the shower and had a part 2. The fact is, the richness of life is not organized and tidy. It's messy. Birth is messy. Death is messy. The making of the love is messy. Life is messy. When you are given a meal, if it is nasty and you don't taste it, your plate is pristine. If you love the meal, once again, the plate looks like a crime scene by the time you're done with it. Life is messy, so is meditation. It's okay to be a day late and a dollar short with your label play. It's okay to be inaccurate. Just as people don't walk sideways but walk perpendicularly, we have self-correcting mechanisms in our mind. We do not defy evolution to become Buddhas. We cooperate with it. We dance with it like Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers. So have fun. Yesterday, I got my feelings hurt really good. Someone said something that kind of felt like they rolled up a newspaper and hit me in the nose. And I tried to be a good sport about it, and then they mocked me afterwards because who doesn't like a little insult with an injury? And so, as I went about my life, I worked with the 3-syllable version, emotion, relaxing, and it really, really helped me not to be a flatulating butthead, which is good. It's a fun change of pace. Now, some people will tell you that if you're truly spiritual, you won't get your feelings hurt. And that's what we call Bandini. You're going to experience the full spectrum of perceptions. You're going to feel the full spectrum of emotions. Remember, the first enlightenment factor is mindfulness. If we shut ourselves off from our emotional experience, we shut ourselves off from nirvana, which I would not recommend. Ironically, we could refer to our inhalation experience as samsara. We can metaphorically refer to our exhalation experience as nirvana. Our experience of nirvana is as poignant. The poignancy of our nirvana experience during our exhalation is directly proportional to the vulnerability of our samsaric experience as we breathe in. Therefore, be vulnerable and honest and perhaps ugly with the present moment experience. It's the admission we pay to really boogie down the path of enlightenment, to ease on down the road. Let's chant. So what were we chanting from? We're chanting from the total space of Vajrasattva, composed by Prahe Vajra, together. Being equal, there is nothing to arrange gradually. Being one that is beyond dedicating something in a direction. Although the ornaments of accumulated offerings are arrayed, since they exist by nature, there is nothing to array. Being spontaneously present, it is beyond dedicating. Here from the beginning it is nectar. The 12 sense spaces are not to be particularly focused, one with special intention. Oh. There we go. That's what us big kids call a typo. The intention of the mind, the known, erase all through the power of perception. In the city, accomplishment that arises, having seen balance, meditation is perfected. Contrary to the ravings of the elitists, a wandering mind is useful for those who are processing their minds and its contents through meditation. Those seeking an escape hate the movement of mind. Those seeking evolution love it. Keeping it for an instant is union, experiencing pleasure is samaya, performing the dance movements of method, the union of non-duality is often. And that's the truth. Give without holding, take two. Giving without holding is the Taramake offering. Beyond it, being beyond action, all activities all completed. Since non-conceptual wisdom eliminates obstructors, balanced meditation without speaking is the mantra. Humans are prone to figures of speech, metaphors and similes and hyperbole. Some people are literal-minded, and they think that our obstructors on the path are real entities come to do us harm. Mara himself come to drag us to the seventh circle of hell. And so many people, superstitious, really relied on mantra as a form of mind protection. Some actually translate mantra as mind protection. But we're being taught here by Prahevajra that Ati Yoga itself, noticing and relaxing, is the ultimate protection. It is the ultimate mantra. Making offerings to the Guru, generosity, and all other meritorious deeds, without the power of detachment and imperturbability, become a great bondage. Not in the BDSM way. Therefore, that which is expressed in this teaching becomes obscured when one tries to act towards it. Being thus if it is conceptualized, it will never be realized. I pay homage to the Bhagavan glorious Vajrasattva. By the way, I love answering questions from my students. I love turning the answers to the questions into the full lesson for the live stream. So my request to you is the moment you have a spiritual question for me, a question about Buddhist meditation or Buddhist philosophy or their application, of which James' question is perfect. If you could type it in the Facebook group, that would be great. The link to the Facebook group is found in the About Me on my channel. The About Me tab, I guess, on the channel. I think James is already a member of that group. And that way I can answer folks' questions quicker, and I don't have to make them wait for 14 hours. And no apologies, James. You did awesome. You're great. I wouldn't change your $1,000,000. Well, maybe for $1,000,000. I'd make a minor change. I don't know. I put a Hello Kitty barrette in your hair for $1,000,000. I do it for myself too. People ask, why is your hair long? Because I identify at this point in my life more as a Dzogchen Lama than I do as a monk. I'm more as a yogi than a scholar. And the yogis of Tibet and India and the Buddha grew their hair out and tied it up in a top knot. In fact, Buddha had his hair in a top knot. But as Hinduism was accepted by, as Buddhism became adopted or accepted by the Vaishnava sect of Hinduism, in Buddhist art, monks began being depicted as having their hair shorn, which was a trait common in Vaishnava priests. The total space of Vajra's alpha is the efficacy and man's ultimate dimension of phenomena. I think that should be and, not and. Being the pure total path that liberates all, it does not arise or cease, it does not think of anything. So figuratively, that means ruminations, thoughts occur, but we always relax and respond to them. Therefore, the thoughts do not control us. We enjoy them like a passenger in a car would enjoy passing scenery. Over the centuries, the teachings of Prahe Vajrayana in Tibet as Gaurab Dorje have been methodically watered down and even contradicted, and people can do whatever they want. I prefer sticking to the teachings of the guy who wrote this text. Being love and thus thoroughly accomplished it. Take two. Being love and thus thoroughly accomplished it does not practice great compassion. Being great, the profound qualities of greatness need not be praised. We don't have to contrive and force love. The highest love is spontaneous and uncontrived, and the natural side effect of a healthy practice of mindfulness and meditation. Phenomena do not move at the authentic conditions, and self-originated wisdom is beyond searching. In liberating itself, it also shows the path of liberation. Here we go. Great elements or the Bhagavan that exists by nature in all beings. However wrongly it may be conceived, liberation originates from oneself and not elsewhere. Deliciously controversial passage. At the time that this was written, Vajrayana was extraordinarily popular. Body mandalas were extremely popular. In people's rigidity, in people's controlling tendencies, they viewed similes as literal, they viewed metaphors as literal statements, and trying to pretend, trying to visualize that their that their air element was Varuchana, their fire element was Amitabha, their water element was Akshobhya, their earth element was Ratnasambhava, and their wind element was Amagosiddhi. What's being taught here is, dude, the key is to see that air is spacious, yet non-graspable. Fire is warm, yet non-graspable. Water is wet, yet non-graspable. Earth is solid, yet non-graspable. This is what is meant by the divine. For instance, classically in Vajrayana, if practiced properly, one would see that the Adams, paradise is appearing yet void. The Adam's body is sensual yet void. The Adam's mantra is resounding yet void. The Adam's mind is lucid yet void. So this dichotomy of the conventional and the ultimate, taught by the South Indian Buddhist philosopher Nagarjuna, is the key to the highest view of Tantra. And this is one of my favorite things. This is what gets me people. This is what makes people on Reddit turn beet red and lose their temper because they're so deeply spiritual. Because here we're taught, however wrongly it may be conceived, liberation liberates from oneself and not elsewhere. You know, a teacher may be helpful, but it's not necessary. The optimal spiritual texts may be helpful, but they're not necessary. As long as you are alive and you are lucid, you can not only meditate, but become a Buddha in a week. How cool is that? And this is why I'm like Rudolph. The other llamas won't let me join in their reindeer game. Just as, what's it called? Just as Yongjia Zhuanjue referred to him as an outcast monk, I'm an outcast Lama. But there is a wonderful British intellectual, I forgot his name. If you know his name, please tell me, who wrote that to be hated by some people is the highest compliment. No, I'm a big old pussy. I want to hug everybody and sing filthy limericks. But not everyone wants to hug me back, and I have to respect their choice. But I take comfort in that quote. And if you know, I think it was Oscar Wilde, but I'm not sure. If you know who said that, let me know. So, in the absence of a text, in the absence of a teacher, armed only with one's mind and one's autonomic nervous system, what is one to do? I was born in 1965 when the crust of the earth was still cooling. When I was in preschool, my mom decided to teach a cooking class for the local school. Now, they seemed like grown-ups to me, but they were probably in like high school. They were probably in high school or junior high school, maybe even elementary. When you're in kindergarten, a sixth grader is, a goddess. But so all these girls came over for my mom's cooking class where she taught them how to make spaghetti. And me and my sister sat at our little table eating, lunch or whatever. And I was just like this little boy. These older women were in my kitchen, and they looked like hippie girls, and so I bonded on hippie girls, real or imagined hippie girls. And so to this day, I have an inner hippie girl guiding me away from yang and towards yin, away from metaphoric patriarchy and towards figurative matriarchy. I don't think I'm that unique. There is a wonderful famous painting of a Tibetan saint named Mila holding his hand behind his ear. And the name of the painting is Mila Listening to the Whispers of the Dharmakaya, a common experience on different continents with every gender, and I might be using that term wrong, and if I do, I mean no offense, in every language, is that yogis being guided towards metaphoric matriarchy. So heaven forfend if all the texts were to disappear and all the lamas were to disappear, one could still progress by working with her autonomic nervous system and using it to plug in and tune in to the whispers of the ultimate. That's been my experience. I might be an idiot. The wisdom of greatness is difficult to find. It is realized through prajna and method. Breathing in and breathing out. Noticing and relaxing. Though it could be said to depend on something else, real bliss originates from oneself. This was even concluded in the final reel of My Fair Lady by Rex Harrison's character. Now, I must admit, I'm not a fan of musicals. They begin with a bang and end with a whimper, and I'm just too wimpy to enjoy that. It is darkly ironic that the root text of all Dzogchen that contradicts elitism and fundamentalism and rigidity and the desire to control others is forbidden by the teachers. The reading of that text is forbidden by the teachers who are defined by their controlling and rigid and fearful tendencies. Yikes. And of course, being the big nose shit disturber that I am, I cannot help but remember what the Mahayana Nirvana Sutra says about the death of the Buddha. That as he lay there, languishing from the poison that was killing him, he proclaimed, I have taught with an outstretched arm and an open hand, keeping no secrets. Beware of those who think they know more than the Buddha and keep secrets. The great miracle is not difficult or qualities and capabilities. So this is what I'm going to refer to during tonight's lesson, by the way. Through subtle understanding of the authentic condition immediately arises from oneself. Oh, look at this editing opportunity. You might ask why I'm playing with colors. Because some of us, not all of us, but some of us are absurdly sensitive to energy, like canaries in a coal mine. And I don't want anyone falling asleep needlessly, unless they want to. Meditation is relaxing without seeking. In the Dharmanta's mastery of awareness and letting go that does not appear visibly. If one actively searches either for the Dharmata or for something in it, the natural condition will never manifest. Insert dramatic music here. Dun dun dun. There we go. The supremely secret reality cannot be heard through the sense of hearing. Likewise, it cannot be expressed by the tongue, not even in the slightest. So let's not view this through the lens of patriarchy. We're not saying he's not saying it should not. Ooh, secret. He's saying it cannot. I mean, can you describe the taste of a ripe persimmon? Can you describe the scent of your favorite meal being cooked? Similarly, it's like this. There was a commercial in the 1970s. I said, "What's this?" The waiter said, "Try it. You'll like it." So, in other words, notice what comes up as you breathe in, relax as best you can as you breathe out, and that is how we taste of the ultimate nature of reality. Not through belief, not through skullduggery. If you've just joined, welcome aboard. If at any point you have a specific question about Buddhist meditation, Buddhist philosophy, or how to apply this stuff to your life, simply type your question in great detail in the chat window, and for goodness sake, press the send button. It looks like a folded paper airplane. The young whippersnappers know that, but those old gangsters, we need to be reminded. Now, I'm not going to say I'm old, but I remember when Rapper's Delight was released in the late 70s. I remember the first rap, which was a country song called Big John. The suffering of beings is the bodhicitta or mindset of enlightenment that fully manifests while pervading all, without ever being moved. It abides equally just as it reaches of space. Now, what the hell is this guy talking about? So he's not a masochist. He's not saying, "Oh yeah, bring on the pain kink." No. He's saying that by noticing our sufferings as we breathe in, by being honest with ourselves about what we're experiencing. I'll never forget someone who said, "Well, if you're truly spiritual, you will have too much faith. You will never admit you're in pain physically or emotionally. And if you do admit it, then you have no faith." Malarkey. Notice what's going on externally or internally as you breathe in. Relax as you breathe out. And doing that, the wimpy path of kvetchy and whining and complaining and moaning and whimpering can serve the path to enlightenment. If we notice and relax with complete vulnerability, that is not an obstacle enlightenment. That is the rocket fuel that speeds us along the path of enlightenment. So there. So the alarm's going to go off pretty soon. I don't want anybody to be startled. If your eyes are closed, you may wish to open them. Bless your heart. Thank you, sir. That which is the equality of all distinctions is conceived by saying it is karma. Were it really under the power of karma, self-originated wisdom would not exist. So, we love telling stories. We look for answers, real or imagined. That's okay. It's just how it's not a flaw, it's a feature. It's how we evolved. That's fine. Often we will look to blame our circumstances and say, ugh, it's karma. Weren't it not for this karma, I would be in such a better place. But doing so is going to really, really make us miserable. Feeling things intensely, as we explored in the previous verse, can help us to meditate, whether it's intense pleasure or intense pain, physical or mental. The intensities of life can help turn the wheels of the enlightenment machine, metaphorically speaking. So don't let someone tell you, well, this meditation is for the truly advanced, and you're not that. So come under my guidance, and in this 3 or 4 short decades, I'll make you worthy. Yes. Thank you, sir, for your time. I think I hear my mother calling. Thank people for their time and then beat a hasty retreat because they ain't gonna help you. I'm reminded of the words attributed to Christ. Of course, it's translated. Christ was a brown Palestinian, and I'm not. But the words attributed to Christ were, you cross land and sea to make one proselyte, and when you do, you make him twice the son of perdition that you already are. Gee, Jesus, thanks. So, yeah, just because someone says that has an extensive vocabulary of weird terminology you don't understand doesn't mean they're more spiritually advanced than you. Buyer beware. Was it caveat emptor? Anybody raised in Catholic Church, let me know. Let us seal this morning's practice with a bit of the old chanting, shall we? We shall begin with kind ethics and conclude with the 4 immeasurables. May all beings practice have kind communication, conduct, and calmness, for spontaneous and uncontrived. May everyone be free from misery. May everyone be happy. May no one be separated from the happiness. May everyone have balance from the tyranny of hating, craving, and clinging freed. In parting, allow me to remind you, despite the ravings of the fundamentalists, just because something is difficult doesn't mean it is harmful. And to paraphrase our friend Gaurav Dorje, the quickest path is the easiest path. I gotta click the right button. If you feel I have earned it, you could give this live stream a thumbs up. Or you could even help support this channel. In approximately 10 1/3 hours, I would very much like to return to lead tonight's evening meditation class and group practice, where I look forward to answering James' really good question. And if you are as geeky as me, this is the way.